Good evening, everybody. Welcome to a very, very special episode of Carl's Conversations. This evening, we're going to get into a personal story in Black history. I am so honored to be able to host this particular episode. As you can see on our split screen, you can see who our honored guest is. He is none other than the Honorable Victor S. Angry. He is a Prince William County Board of Supervisors member. He is a Neabsco District Supervisor. He's been on our platform before. We absolutely are thankful to him and his staff. It's so much stuff that goes on behind the scenes, y'all wouldn't believe it. But I want to set this up for the audience. Usually, every year during Black History Month, we absolutely honor, those who we have read about for years, and many of those that we honor are yet deceased. But this year, we wanted to do something different. We wanted to honor someone who was right here amongst us. For those of you who live in the Virginia region, you know that Prince William County is a big part of the Northern Virginia region, and Victor S. Angry, supervisor of the Neabsco District, he's a big part of that. And so we wanted to tell you his story. And I'm really hoping that some young people are present in the audience today because now this story is going to help everybody, but especially young people, because I want you to know that everybody that you see in high places, they weren't born with silver spoons in their mouths. And you'd be shocked to know where some of these people come from. Some they have polish, so they look, so good. Look at Supervisor Angry there with his bow tie. And that brother is fit and in shape, smart, educated. But in just a few minutes, we're gonna start getting into his story. It didn't start like that. But this is going to be a very interactive type of coming together. I don't know whether you want to call it a town hall or you want to call it an interview or you want to call it a profile, whatever you want to call it, that works for me and it works for Supervisor Angry. But I want the audience to know that we want you to share this now. So I want you to start a watch party, share, let people know this is a great story that we want to share and it's going to motivate some people. This man does so many things, not only for the people that he serves as an elected official, but if you are a business owner who is trying to develop leaders, he's your man. If you have young people who need to be mentored, matter of fact, I know one of the young people that he has mentored. He doesn't know I know him because I've been watching on the sidelines. See, sometimes you got to watch people. But he's done a terrific job. So I welcome you in, audience. Thank God for you. And welcome, Honorable Victor Angry. How are you doing this evening, sir?
I am blessed, Carl. I'm great. I'm really happy that we worked out because I want to apologize for working out kinks to get here. That was Ray, one of the guys that work on my staff. So he's my IT tech guru, and so I was last minute trying to get some things taken care of. So I apologize if I was looking away and all of that. But I'm doing great, man. I'm happy to be here. It's Black History Month, and as we started talking about Black History Month and all the history of this of America and Black history, I realized, man, I really have a lot that I could offer, and I love our conversation. So I wanted to take this opportunity to kind of have another one with you, and thank you for allowing me to do this with you, and I hope we can continue this on for many more discussions in the future.
Or just like we said on the first interview that we did several months ago, it would be the first of many. Supervisor Angry is really a personable person. He's not one of those that you can't get to. He's not that type. And I would suppose that even if he goes on to serve in higher office, he will keep that personable thing very easy to get to. And then you got to do the right thing now. I'm not telling you to go, don't go knocking on his door now. Go through the staff.
I learned that. I want you to know that I had to learn that because, to your point, that's literally how I am. You want to stop by, we have a conversation. I do all of that, but then sometimes it gets so overwhelming that I'm not where I need to be. I'm not in the right frame I need to be for whatever's going on. So then, my staff had to reel me in. We had a long sit down. Look, Mr. Supervisor, we need to talk about how we get things done around here and how you can be more efficient. And my word is efficiency. I'm always about efficiency. So, you know,
That is awesome. Go
did
ahead.
you one thing about sharing? And can I share it on my Facebook page real quick? I just want to share,
Sure. Absolutely.
you know,
Absolutely. That
I,
we absolutely want you to be able to share. Somebody need to be able to go to your page. And while he's doing it, I want to remind the audience, don't be stingy. Don't keep supervisor anger all to yourself. Go ahead and hit that share button, or you can start your own watch party, and we'll be glad to have those portions of the audience in too. So, Supervisor Angry, I want to start right here. Those who
okay.
have read your bio or who even know you personally, there's a few things that they do know. Of course, we know by your title that you are an elected official. We know that. We know that you are a retired Command Sergeant Major, United States Army. And for those who don't know, he had a very, very important post. He was the Command Sergeant Major in charge of all of the National Guard in the United States. And that covers the 50 states and all of the U.S. territories, because you have National Guards in all those places too. And so that's a first. I believe he was the first Black sergeant major to serve in that position. So just those two things alone, not even talking about the educational accomplishments that you've had, earning your associate's, bachelor's, and master's degree. For someone who is on the outside looking in, they say, "Wow, he's really got it going on," but they may not know about the humble beginnings in Florida. And so I want to start there with your humble beginnings. I want to know that part of your story leading up to where you are today.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Carl. Listen, you clearly done your homework. Wow. And it is about the beginning. The beginning is very important. I'm one of seven children, right? So I'm a twin. Matter of fact, my twin sister Victoria. Hey, Vicky. Oh, she watching. Vicky's Vicky's my she's my funny one. But I come from seven kids in the family, and growing up wasn't an easy path. Growing up, I mean, my mother raised all seven of us. Okay, so my father, I don't know, maybe 9 or 10 years old I was when he left home, and then she handled that burden of raising all of us. So all of my credit, everything I've ever done in life, I have to give all of that to my mother, Joanne English. She passed away 2001, love of my life, love of all of our lives, and everything changed from that. But I'll get down the road to that in a bit. But I will tell you this, in the journey of Vic Angry being in this position I am now, in the beautiful life I've lived, and I will say that. Now, it's had a lot of rough roads, a lot of uncertainties, a lot of disappointments, but all of that has made me the man I am today. And it all starts with Joanne. I always call her Ann. I say, "Hey, Ann." I call her Ann Angry, my mama. But it all starts with her. And I'll tell you, there's another lady who I swear, I think the story goes like this. It didn't happen like this, but if I'm gonna make up a story, this would be the story that I'll make up. It went like this: my mother and Miss Brenda Patterson got together. Now, Miss Brenda Patterson is a long time friend of the family. Was dating my uncle, and I think the story would have went like this. Miss Brenda, Scene, because my middle name is Sean, they call me Scene. Scene is a handful, and I see some great potential in him, and I know he can do better in life. But I got too much. I got the rest of these kids, I got these jobs, I got to do all this stuff, I got to raise this family, and I just need somebody to kind of watch over him. And I'm pretty sure Miss Brenda said, "I got him." And Miss Brenda came into my life and literally was my first ever drill sergeant. If anyone ever served in the military, you know what a drill sergeant is and what a drill sergeant does. And they break you down, they rebuild you up, and they send you back into society, ready for whatever that next task or assignment or challenge is. And that's what Miss Brenda did. I remember very specifically when I was a teenager, me and Terry. And what's up, Terry? Hope you're watching too. That's my first cousin. We grew up together. And I'm going to call it today, we were knuckleheads, but we were good knuckleheads. We was back there in the Prince and the Michael Jackson days. And, Terry's dad, Clifford, who was my uncle, and Miss Brenda was girlfriend, I mean, he would buy us anything, man. Money was never an object for him. Like Terry was my Mr. Michael Jackson. He had the glove, the pants, and the whole 9 yards. We just kind of grew up really not really knowing the challenges in life, but enjoying that life. And Miss Brenda was really the one that narrowed us in this corral of we thought we were wild, but she would always bring us back to this boundary. And I remember one day in the kitchen at her place, I'm in the kitchen, and she's doing what, and I know sounds bad, but for a young kid and a young black boy, I'll even say, she was nagging again. Miss Brenda was nagging. She was just nagging about what we could be doing, what I could be doing, the things that I should stay out of trouble with, and all of this. And then she said, because I see more in you than you see in yourself, literally. And I'm trying to get into her voice because she kind of talked. And I stopped and I said, Miss Brenda, what'd you just say? And she said, what? Because she's going out because that's what she just went out on. So I love her because she was very, very strict. And I said, what'd you say? And she said, I see more in you than you see in yourself. And I said, really? Like you really, like, what is that? And then she had my attention. So I was drawn in from that moment because I'm thinking to myself, all this stuff going on around us in the streets, and we're all just trying to survive. And I'm really just trying to maintain a persona on the streets that is tougher than the person that I really am, right? I just kind of have this attitude that goes with the streets. And she gives me this statement that had me pause and kind of, step out of that fake world and then ask her, well, what do you see? Like, what can I be? And then she's, telling me all the things that I already knew that I wanted to do. And she said, so what do you want to do anyway? And I said, Miss Brenda, I really want to see the world. That's literally what I want to do, see the world. And I said, I want to go to school. And she said, nope, you're not going to school. And I'm telling you, I'm thinking, what? Who tells a young man you don't want to can't go to school? And she said, no, because you're just going to go to school. Literally, this is her word. She said, you're going to go to school, you're just going to party, and you're going to get women pregnant. That's what she said. Now, but that's a true statement now. And I think there's a lot of validity to a lot of that. One thing in my mind I knew about college was that I just wanted to go party. I really wasn't thinking about what the education piece was. I think people learn that when they get there, those that get through that and go into it. For me, I don't think it would have worked because I know that I have always been the life of a party or the life of a conversation or the life of an event. So if I go into it, I want to meet the people and know the people and just have a good time. So literally the next thing I heard mouth was the Army recruiting office. So it was actually Air Force because my brother was in the Air Force and I wanted to join the Air Force. And so she drove me down to the Air Force recruiting office. Now, the Air Force recruiter wasn't there. They were at lunch. And as I'm coming out of there, there's an Army recruiting office right next to it. And he stops me and tells me that, long story short, he says, you cannot rank your brother if you join the Army. Now, because I told him I was there because my brother was in the Air Force. I was in the Air Force and kind of following his footsteps. And he threw that at me. And the rest, as they say, is history. I joined the Army by way of Miss Brenda getting me in there. She was what I would call my first mentor. And I say this because my mother will always be my mother. She's better than any mentor. She's my guiding light. And I remember just the conversations I had with her. But Miss Brenda was my first mentor because she literally stood by me, beat me up when I needed beating up, supported me when I needed supporting, got started on a track that I knew I wanted to do something different. I just didn't know what that different was, And I didn't even know it was the Army because honestly, you hear young kids say today, and they said it back then when I went through, ain't nobody gonna tell me what to do. I'm not gonna join the Army. And in particular in black neighborhoods, oh, that's a white man's Army. And and really, if you want to claim America and you're American, you're born in this country, it's your Army. All of it's yours. You can do whatever you want in any of it. And so I didn't really learn all that till I got through some of that and then met more mentors along the way that would catapult me into all of these different positions and opportunities. And the key to all of them was you never forget them and you always let them be a part of your safety net so that when you do fall, every last one of them catches you and helps get you back up to where it is. And so I went through that, I got in and my humble beginnings start from a little town called Altamont Springs, Florida, just right outside of Orlando. And I got a lot of family and friends still down there. So hopefully they're watching and tuning in. I love you guys.
That is awesome. It sounds like this woman was a tremendous mentor who kind of got you to the door. I'm sure seeing that Army recruiter, you could not have imagined today. But
No.
thank God for her who was
Yeah.
very valuable at that stage of your life. Now, let me ask you this. Being a young soldier, entering United States Army boot camp, and Lord knows if I saw those drill sergeants that I had right now, even though they're aged, I would know them. You never forget your drill sergeant.
Yes.
That's a life-changing experience. Yes. I'm sure being an Army Sergeant Major, you remember this saying, when one of your youngsters get in trouble, you give them a significant emotional event. That's what we're gonna get into that later too. That's what you do with one of the youngsters who can be saved. When they can be saved, you give them a significant emotional event, and after they cry for a little while, they come back and become, command sergeant majors.
I think they call that tough love.
That's
We
right,
don't
tough
give a
love.
lot of that.
So let me ask you, during those formative years as a soldier, what role did mentors play, and how did you see yourself changing and developing as a young soldier, as opposed to being that adolescent coming out of school in Florida?
So I can tell you the very first in the military now, the very first mentor and role that I learned from a mentor came from what I didn't want to be as a leader. And that was what I call a bad leader. And I'll call him a mentor now because he wanted to be a mentor. He wanted to be my mentor, which is another discussion about how do you pick a mentor? Do they pick you? Do you pick them? But this particular gentleman, Sergeant First Class, said he's going to be my mentor. Worst leader I ever had in my career. Treated soldiers just terrible, treated me bad. Never knew a way to get the positive out of you, but always threw negative comments. And it was just the worst. But I said, you know what? I'm learning from this because this is what I will never do to my soldiers, man. I'll never do to anyone that asks me to be a part of their life or ask me for guidance or just want to be around you. Like there's just some things you just learned from that and said I never, if I ever had the opportunity to lead, this is one version of leadership that I will never be. And I say version of leadership because that is a style of leadership and it exists in the military. But the thing that I think most people have to take away from that is how do you learn from that to grow from that and not let that get you put out of the military. Or you say, well, I don't like that person, so I'm going to leave. Because there's this old saying, I don't know who came up with it, but I love it and I live by the quote. He or she who angers you conquers you. And if you're going to alter your whole life, there are people right now out of the military, friends that I got right now that I go see and talk to them and I say, man, Vic, I sure wish I would have stayed there. I think that's the worst thing you could ever say to yourself. A decision that you know you shouldn't have made based on a person having you make that. And, yeah, that's not something I want to do. So I've always just let myself to lead by the examples that I've learned from, and then if I find myself doing something that triggers in me a thought about a leadership about something that someone did to me, I stop real quick and I back up and go back in it a different way.
Okay, wonderful. Hey, we have an interactive audience here tonight, Supervisor Angry, and here is also a retired Air Force Senior Master Sergeant Lee Morgan. What advice would you give to obtain a mentor who appears to be above your reach?
Okay, so what advice would I give to
To obtain a
to
mentor who appears to be
oh
above your reach?
I will tell you this. I'll tell you this. If this person appears to be above your reach and you can't get to them to be your mentor, then really I can only say this though. I don't mean to sound. I don't mean to go into the church and get biblical, but because God will point all those directions for you, right? The opportunity for that individual that you're seeking will either present itself or it will not. But what will happen is there will be something else that presents themselves. Don't overlook that because that could be the mentor you're looking for, right? That you're not even looking for because you're focused on this one. Now, if that presents itself, it will, but never overlook what's coming out of the side angles, man. And then really the bottom line is, you send that request for, because a lot of times when you're trying to reach these kind of folks that are in different positions, it might today be by an email. I don't know if you have that person's phone number, but I imagine if you did, you probably already have that relationship. But you just have to put that thing out there in the universe. Send that request to that person by direct whatever. Find their social media page or whatever that might be. Send something out there, and if it comes back, then it's meant to be. If it doesn't, don't overlook, because there's somebody in your way that's there for you.
Amen to that.
I hope that answers
Now,
it. I do like this interactive. This is really good.
yes, I love it. I absolutely love it because you get right there with your audience. So here's a question. Now, you made a statement, and Lord knows I've heard it. When you're about to join the army and you're young, you have those, telling you about the white man's army, all that kind of stuff. Now, you joined the army back in 1986. I think I'm right. It's 80 or 88. Was it 88? Okay. We know that the racial climate,
87, 86, so
86, the racial climate was way more pervasive towards racism at that point than it is now. And we know from recent events of the last few years that there are racial problems in the United States military. How did you negotiate those challenges of racism to rise through the enlisted ranks?
Thank you. That is a very, very great question. And I want to start that by giving you this conversation I had when I was an equal opportunity sergeant major, and I would travel the country, visiting different states and checking on their programs. And I had a gentleman tell me that he was proud of me. Now he was an E5 and he was probably 60 years old. And he told me that he was proud of me because I made it through the gauntlet. He said, "You made it through the gauntlet." And I thought, what is that? What's the gauntlet? But in my head, I already knew what he was talking about, which was I navigated the minefield of racism and challenges, because you just don't get here because you're good at what you do. I mean, that's not how it happens. I've had many soldiers I've had to have many counseling sessions with because they decided to knock out their NCO who called them the N-word, right? And you can send home many soldiers, many good soldiers and send home, but can have NCOs for calling them, disparaging names. The deal. We have a uniform code of military justice that simply says if you do that, you're going home, regardless of the fact that what that person said was not right, was not right. But there's these policies in place that help that. So the thing that we have to be smart about is navigating the field of those policies, right? So for me, when I realized, and I'm going to give you the story, I went to tell my captain, my company commander, white male officer, about a discrimination issue situation that was going on with me, and I felt that it was racist, and they were trying to, they were saying things and also trying to put me out of the military for situations that were not me. And he said out his mouth, "Well, I think you just interpreted that the wrong way. Like, I don't think that really happened." And then I had to really sit down and put on my Albert Einstein hat instead of just being so, pissed off and upset at the fact that he knows what happened. I had to seriously ask myself, he doesn't come from my world. So he don't know what I see and what I've gone through and the little sly comments that people make and the stuff I have to put up with and how I have to go around that if I'm going to continue down this road. So I said, you know what? He probably honestly don't even know. So he's not going to be good for me. I'm not going to be able to go back in here and tell this man any of these situations. So I'm going to have to figure this out myself. But here's what I do. Leadership. When you talk and talk the talk and lead with presence, even when they come at you with this stuff, all you have to do is what many of us have known during that time. Know your regulatory guidelines, know AR 670-1. Like, it's not that anymore. I don't think that's a regular, but you have to literally know the field of battle that you're in. I had told a soldier of mine once, I said, you have to not only see the bull, but you got to get on the bull, ride the bull, and tame the bull. And when you can do all of that, then you can walk this thing, because people are going to still come at you, but they will realize real quick, oh, that's not the one to mess with. Like, that person's not going to hit back with his fist. That person's going to hit back with some knowledge and some processes and going around this thing. Sure. Now, it takes a while to do that sometimes, but it's better than just hitting somebody. And then clearly there's rules that say you can't do that, you know? So you got to be smart about it. So I had to navigate this battlefield. And I'm telling you what, I think the more battles I fought with issues like that for myself, the better it made me, you know? And then it
Yes.
made me even more tough to go back and take care of other soldiers, because then I can see these issues happening where some soldiers may, just feel threatened and won't say anything. But then that third party comes in. Well, if you watch that stuff and you're an NCO and you're a leader, you got to take care of that for them, because we shouldn't even be here in 2021 still going through some of the stuff that I dealt with in 1990 or 87, 88.
Well, you said the key thing, leadership. And I will tell you, I think I got spoiled during my time in the Army because we had such a plethora of good leaders. Of course, I had my share of horrible leaders too. But overall, we had a plethora of good leaders, and there was such structure. And then when you come on the civilian side, of course, you know this. Um, the civilian side leaves something wanting, and that's why I love your A is for angry business, because you do help corporations with transitioning military people. And let me tell you, I did not think that I was going to go through what I went through. When I started going through the transition, it was then that I realized how difficult it was, and some just don't do well with that transition. And I imagine for somebody like yourself, over 23 years in the Army and rising to the level of command sergeant major, having hundreds of thousands of people that you are accountable for. And then you come outside to the civilian world, and the structure that we're used to is just not there. So when you're talking to these companies, when you're doing your mentoring and helping with developing leaders, helping these corporations to understand how to deal with veterans who are transitioning, and even dealing with the transitioning veterans themselves, what is your approach to that, and how do you apply your own lessons learned?
Yeah, yeah. Carl, you asking a lot of great questions, because when I first came out the military, I suffered. That was hard. That was probably the hardest transition I made. When you talk about PTSD, that's PTSD, and I don't mean to take away from any battleground situations that our soldiers, uh, our service members have themselves in. Uh, a traumatic piece is leaving the military, of leaving something that you love, something that's so ingrained in you. Like there's a comment, there's a thing we have called battle rhythm. It took me a while to find my battle rhythm when I came out the military, because it was a slow road. And to your point of uh, blending into a civilian society, I had to again assess myself and realize it's not that I would say that civilian organizations don't have leadership. It's not the model of leadership that I come from. So I never fit into, for the last couple of positions that I worked before I got into this position. I never fit into that version of the leadership. And so I had to realize I can't say they have bad leadership, but they don't know what they're doing. But the style of that organization and the history of that organization and the culture of that organization isn't the culture I came from with the leadership that I understand. Even as an elected official now, it's still challenging, because this is very political and people live in this political process. But I think there's a heavy dose of leadership that we need to uphold and carry ourselves to. Now, to get to your question, because I can get all over the place. when when I first came out, and to look at transitioning into trying to really understand and focus in a different mindset of a civilian life, if you will. I tell you what, the biggest thing was that whole transitioning process coming out of the military, which was unfortunately still to this day, it's still not what I see to be something that is tangible as you come out. So as what I try to focus on now when I talk to folks coming out of the military is take a break. Like you literally got to take a break because we press hard. You know the old saying, we do more before 6 a.m. than most people do all day. So first thing is take a break, turn your mind off, go fishing or whatever it is you do, and just separate yourself. Because the next thing you have to do is literally start from you got to start again. And you got to step away from what you knew here now to get into something that you don't know. Or maybe you do know, because as guardsmen, we often have two careers. You have a civilian life and you have your military life, depending on what level of that guardsman world you got into. But at the end of the day, if you're going to take the uniform off, the uniform is off. And so what you may want to do, the next thing I did is go shopping, right? So I became a full-time man, and I bought a lot of suits, and I tried to, because I never wore different clothes. I just wore the same uniform. I mean, people don't understand that when we get up in the morning, for me, it was BDUs, then the ACUs, and I don't know what they call them now, but that's your uniform. Now, it may not be the exact same uniform you're wearing because you get like 5 pairs of this thing, but it's not hard to pick for the next uniform to wear because it's the same uniform. And so you really got to who you're going to be when you get out. We always say, who am I going to be when I grow up, when I get out of the military? So for me, I try to tell people or walk what I went through. I went through it too fast, but then I came back and realized something that I should have done to process myself to get to where I am. And then I'll say this last thing. Many of us, if you've ever served more than 5 years in the military, and probably even just one, the leadership experience that you get from that make you more successful than the jobs that you think you're seeking. Like you can literally run the CEOs of some companies. And so you have to think bigger than what you're looking for. And to many extents, looking into going into business for yourself. I think that's one of the markets for veterans is to go into business for yourself. There's something out there that you were wanting to create, you had ideas about, and I mean, that's what I did, but I had to go through 3 jobs to do that, to find out I got to do this myself.
Now, let me ask you, in reading all the information, it appears that when you're speaking to corporations about developing leaders, there are 7 principles that you use, if I am regurgitating the information properly. I want to know what those 7 principles are and how that they come into this type of delivery for your presentations to businesses.
Yeah. Well, but actually, so I'm basically borrowing from the Army, right? I mean, so we have our leadership principles. For me, I what made me successful? And actually, I had some soldiers ask me, what made you successful, and how did you do it, and maybe you should write it. So that's where I kind of came up with these. And I was shooting for 10, Carl, but I couldn't get to 10. I could only get to, so I stopped at 7. so the biggest one I have to have, you have to be able to grin and bear it, and you gotta fight the good fight, and you gotta stand for what you believe in. And then fitness, get up, and I don't do it like I used to do it. So I'm not even gonna lie to myself or lie to y'all. I used to get up every morning like 4:30 and go out here and run 10 miles and go out and stuff. Now I work out 2 days a week with a trainer, but I also still work out 2 days in my home gym with just myself, because I think fitness is important. Like, need to be in the best shape ever, leaving your house in the morning. Now, a lot of people work out at night. That working out in the morning is my thing. That really kind of pushes me over the top. And I'm actually reading some comments of people that just jumped in on the phone here. They're looking at here. Oh, family? No. Yeah. Hey, do you have a copy of my book there with you?
I do not. but I know you do.
I'm sorry.
I said, I do not have a copy, but I know you do.
Oh, you don't? You don't have my book?
I don't. Can you forgive me? I'll buy it though.
No, I do. And but have I given
No, I don't have a copy.
you don't not have to buy my yeah. I would not do that. I'm gonna send you my book. Okay. Okay.
All
I
right.
just wrote it to really try to inspire, my, soldiers that I left to kind of, just kind of stay the course and do what they're doing in their lives. So, to get to the finish line is what the goal of that was, you know. But I'm gonna send you a copy of that, okay?
Wonderful. I want to read it. I really do. So, where you are now and all the things that you do, I mean, maybe people don't even know that you're a volunteer firefighter. You sit on the board. I think it's the Dale City Volunteer Firefighters. So many things that you do. But being a former soldier myself, I tell you, I still pull from the many, many lessons that I learned, not only in leading, but in the military, you also learn how to follow. Every level of leadership that you rise to, there's
Yes.
always someone to answer to. And whether I'm leading or following or building or communicating, I often pull from my military experience. How does all that military experience, especially being a command sergeant major, how does that help you in what you're doing now? Because I would imagine you multitask and you have to deal with so many chaotic situations. How do you pull on that to be able to flow like you do?
Yeah. 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 Very true. The key, the base to all of that is a great team. All right. So I have a great team. I have a great staff here. Um, two of my staff were here, and two I hired on. And oftentimes, when you are working with, in any situation, in any organization, usually you have those challenges with, folks and personalities trying to get together. Well, I have to cut through all that up front. So what I always, why we gel so well and why my teams gel so well is I say we got to put everything on the table. Let's bring it all in now. And then I two things. These are two things that we will never do in the office. I say we don't stress and we don't do awkwardness. So if Vic Angry says something in a team meeting that you all felt was awkward or you don't back up at that moment and you let that thing fester and build and turn into something else because that's how things usually go bad, then that's your fault, right? If it's something you don't understand or offended you, then we clean real quick. The stress. If something comes from the outside into this office, you, you allowed it to come in here. We check the door. We understand that there are 7 other districts in this, 6 other districts in this county. There's a lot of political processes going on. But what we have to manage and work here in the actual district is what we have to manage and work here in the actual district. At the same time, we're working with everybody. We're working with everybody because that's what this is about, teamwork. And so the base, I'll tell you, is really team, getting a great team behind you to do the things that we need to get done. And then once I did that, or once we do that, then it's really a matter of going out here and doing the work of the people. And as challenging that it is, I really just try to focus on one big thing I said, and I even ran on this, is trust, like creating trust back. And there is the thing that come, people have certainties and they, you know, they don't know if they heard is true or not. Um, and so one thing is if you call, we can have an honest conversation. But I just want an honest conversation. I don't like the when people just call just to be disgruntled and they don't actually want to hear anything. Want to call to yell at you. I mean, I'll hear you yell, but in the day, I want us to kind of work together, try to get to a. It's going to be a middle ground because it's not going to be your way or my way. The only place we can do is a middle ground, and I think that's what we really need to be working on. So that that's how I've always functioned in the military. So I brought that out of the military with me here into this position and even into the fire department. And I think it's really just about the team, man. So I have a great team. I want to credit them real quick because we do a lot of work, and I can't do it all. I can tell you right now, Carl, because I'm on so many boards. I had to write them all down. I don't know how many boards I'm on. But I do love being a volunteer firefighter. I do love helping people. To me, it's about service, and that's what I've been doing to serve. So I'll continue to serve.
Amen to that. Well, here's this interactive audience. We have a couple of questions. First one from Pastor Gary Holland. What would you say to aspiring young leaders, teens and college level, with the various distractions and challenges they face these days?
Where's distraction and challenges today? So what would I say to aspiring young leaders? Okay, I mean, really, I'm gonna say this here. So every day, like, here's the deal: you have to know who you are first, because there's a toughness that you got to build into yourself, that you have to push forward through all of those situations. Leadership is not easy. Leadership, there's nothing easy about leadership. And here's what leadership is, and it's from its bottom line, rarest form. It's about making this, never make a decision. The decision you make, right, wrong, whatever that may be, is the decision that you're going to make. And history will tell how good or bad it was. But for the time that you're in that, you got to move. If you're moving organizations and you're moving people, you've got to move them in the direction that it's going. Now, you can't have that direction yourself. You've got to get buy-in from the whole team that we're going to move this way. Now, if the whole team can't buy in, then we need to use the democratic process, because at the end of the day, we've got to move. So where we're going to move is going to be how you're going to do that. But for you, the individual, and how you handle that, you have to first put yourself in who you are. Like, I'm going to tell you, I don't mind making a decision. I'll make a decision. I mean, I may learn tomorrow that it was a bad decision, but and I may regret that decision, but I made a decision. And I think that's a heavy key. I'm going to try not to talk so long so we can get to the next question and we can.
Oh no, you are the honored guest. They tune in to hear you, not me. All right, here is Ashley Moslak. Your best friend Lily is watching, and she wants to know if you are still a firefighter. She is watching with me. What advice would you give her generation?
Hi, Lily. First of all, Lily's the best, and Ashley is Ashley is one who, her whole family is great. What's up? That's the husband. They're both veterans, mind you, Army. Let me tell you, for Lily's generation, this is the advice I want Lily's generation. I really want, I need us to get behind or put behind us. Remember, I was born into civil rights. I was born into civil protests. Martin Luther King was killed 42 days before I was born. And we were dealing with civil protests then. 52 years later, we're still dealing with that. I look at my kids, and my son is 30 and my daughter is 20. They're grown kids. They see a different view of what I experienced coming. Really, the generation that still doesn't mind some of these bad things. So when I see things happen, I'm quick to them for maybe what they aren't, right? But oftentimes I'm right, because I still think we've got a lot of cleaning up to do. But my point, in moving forward, Lily's generation, what I see for that generation going forward is a beautiful way. It's almost like saying Dr. Martin Luther King when he said the little black boy and the little black girl holding hands. Like we missed the boat on that. Like we haven't fully. But let me tell you what, there's a picture with me and Lily, and we're sitting down, we're playing with some rocks, right? And Lily's a little white girl, just so you know, want you to know. And so there are us just playing. Like, that's the world that it should have been already. And I think in many cases it is, and then somehow got washed again. So Lily's gonna take after her mama and gonna say always. And I really want that to be is that really doesn't matter. I mean, I get it that I'm darker skinned than a lighter skinned person. You're never gonna be able to have a person to simply say, well, how do I describe that person without saying they're black or they're white? That's okay to say that because that's just describing the person. It's really more than that about, how engaging is that person? How happy is that person? Is that person willing to, give their life to help other people? Are they inviting? Are they welcome? On a challenging time, can you help them through that challenging time? And they willing to accept the help through that challenging time? Because both sides of the table exist that we got to do better at. So I really hope, Lily's generation definitely is going to be the one that gets it right. Because her mama already on the track with that.
All right. All right. Here's another question. Pastor Gary Hollins asked.
And yes, retirement.
She got her answer. Pastor Gary Holland asked, which historical figures have inspired you during your illustrious career and life?
Nelson Mandela. I really wish I could have met Nelson Mandela. I don't want to draw a brain. Y'all gonna help me with this. Remember the Titans, coach Herman Boone. Herman Boone. I meet Herman Boone, and man, I was so impressed. Now Herman Boone does not look like Denzel Washington. People, just so y'all know that. Okay, and he's passed away now, but when I met him, I was so dude with young man, black and white, during a time of racial tension that was crazy in this country. And man, he's got a great story. I idolize him. Another one, that I really wish I could have celebrated with more. It's gonna sound simple, but it's my granddad, David Lomax. You know, he I didn't get to spend a lot of time with him growing up. He passed away when I was still a little kid, but he was he had this little blue Mustang. He was a shepherd for the family, man. Everybody was straight. And I remember one day a dog was chasing was going to bite my mom, and he's probably in his 80s, and he jumps out with a stick to defend his daughter, his baby girl. And so he loved his family. So I would really love to sit down with him and hear what how I turned out.
That is awesome. I like that list. We have another question here from Vanessa Gaddis. And listen, audience, I love the fact that you are being interactive. This is a personal story in Black history. We have a very, very successful member of our community who has taken this time to come on and has opened himself up to take your questions and deal with your comments. I think it is awesome, especially for our younger generation, but even for old dogs like me. It is wonderful to have Supervisor Angry just to sit down and pour out his experiences. So y'all keep the interaction coming. We love it. So Vanessa Gaddis, she asked, hello, my friend. As a Christian politician, discuss how you keep your integrity intact and not compromise your morals and values.
Yeah. Wow. So Vanessa Gaddis, hello. That's Colonel Gaddis, retired. Okay. So, this year, me and my wife, we both have 365-day Bible, reading the Bible every day. Now, my wife already read the Bible. One is I've never read the Bible from front, and so this is my first year. I always do that to read the Bible. Not to say I'm not a biblical man or a Christian man, because as I always start out by saying, everything that's happened in my life is a result of God. That's who we are. Um, I 100% believe that was not by my design. They say that the best way you can make God laugh is to tell him your plans. So I really try hard not to make plans because I just kind of follow the order of the footsteps that I gotta go. Really kind of get into this whole political thing. However, um, I have a great rock at home, which is Michelle Ann, and so we had a conversation about even this journey right here, and there was a lot of fields we had to navigate to make sure this is a walk that although it was ordered for me, we had to make sure it was really ordered for me, right? So it's not something I just want to do. And I've learned in life, and even from my military experience, you, you have to remove self from what we do in these positions. So I really hope people can hear me and feel me. And when I say that, this is not about Big Angry. Um, when I find myself in a situation politically, I really just try to pray about it. I know a lot of people say that, but I think that's the difference in kind of getting, well, not kind of, but getting through a lot of this. A lot of this is fun. Well, some of this is fun. A lot of this is where you need prayer, And so my my faith, in God in this position. And I have let me tell you what, um, I didn't know about prayer groups, right? You have to have your prayer circles, and I got a group that if I just put in a situation that's going on in my life in that group, they pray for me, and I think prayer is powerful. I think prayer works, and the results of that show, and when you are serious about it. So for me in this political world, to Vanessa's question and point is, prayer is important, and it guides me through a lot of this, majority of this, if not all of this.
That is awesome. I love these questions, Supervisor Angry. This man. So this is a very interesting question. Very interesting. Comes from our YouTube viewers. How do we motivate or engage the younger generation to join the fight for Black Americans?
I need a little bit more on that. When you say younger generation, younger Black generations, or young people in general, Black and white, just young people in the world, in America, and if I could just kind of dig into it and kind of answer myself, if I just say young people, all right, and here's what I see where we are in this country with young people. We had an opportunity to kind of get through this situation we're in right now. Back in Rodney King, before Rodney King, you have all these other situations, but yet people, there's some people who have just kind of turned, the blind eye as if, it's not happening to me, so I'll worry about it. But what I'm seeing from young people, and I'm going to speak specifically to young white Americans, they're tired of this. And it's not that they're tired of this. They don't understand this because they know they grew up with kids and Black kids, white, Muslim kids, Asian kids. They grew up with these kids. They're like, oh my God. This is what I'm seeing now from our youth of our, I'll just say my white children. This is unacceptable for adults to behave or say or do things that they're saying, wait a minute, that's not the person I am, which is incredible to see that that's your child who really doesn't take on your values. Who, if you go back to, I'm 52 now, and I know I grew up with some kids who probably could have spoken out and said some things, but that wasn't that era. That wasn't happening then, and it's happening more now. To my, Black, or as I was actually told, I got to really be specific because when we say African American children, we may have Somali children. So I think there's specific now that we have to like dig into the depths of what we're saying. So I think Black and Brown kind of covers really all of the nationalities, cultures that we're talking about in the minority aspect of this conversation. But then I would say you gotta not act as if this stuff did not exist, and there's a history that you have to know. And although this is Black History Month, you need to really dig into what happened in this country. Remember this: he or she that does not know their history is doomed to repeat it. There are things that we do not want to see happen again in this country. And the only way you will know that is if you know the backstory. The backstories are very important. Your parents, your grandparents, your friend's grandparents, somebody's parents, some person can tell you these things. You need to ask that question. But I will tell you this: that little thing we have now called that cell phone, that iPhone, that brain box that we have, you, you can Google a lot of this information in the Facebook. It's not 100% confirmed, but it will at least get you on a track to start asking questions about certain situations. In particular, Black Wall Street. In particular, what does GAP stand for? The GAP band. Do you know the GAP band? Look up GAP. Tell me what it stands for. That's some homework for you if you didn't know that. There's history out there that you should know because you don't want to repeat it. And that's what I say to that. I don't believe this country is in any place where it was when I was born, and definitely in the 1900s, and definitely when W.E.B. Du Bois was born in 1868, right? We're a lot further ahead than we know, and that we care. I think still there's a history of the backstory that you need to know to ensure that you don't repeat some of the mistakes of yesterday.
Amen to that. I love this question because this question helps me to ask a question that I want to ask anyway. Jacqueline Ray Morris, she says, I'm a firm believer that you are walking in your destiny. Can you share any confirmations regarding that? And she opened it up. Thank you, Jacqueline, because I wanted to ask you, how did you know that it was time to run for office? And this is the reason why I asked that for you. Many politicians, when we step back and look at them, they're egomaniacs, right? There are many, many narcissists who run for office and hold office. And I'm not going to ask you to confirm because I know you work with some. But anyway, we know that. But you do not appear to be that at all. You do not appear to be self-centered or self-serving. So I'm thinking along the lines with Miss Jacqueline Ray Morris that it had to be a divine thing. Something had to let you know, okay, it's time to make this move.
Man. Okay. So first of all, Miss Jacqueline Ray Morris, that's my god. I love you. um, Listen, I can tell you the very specific moment when I supposed to do this. I was sitting in my basement, and I guess the cat's out the bag now. But Senator Pike, his team, he sent his team down to me, and they actually putting my campaign package together to run for office. And here's the moment I realized that I was meant to be. This is my walk that I'm in. Was they had got all the information together, things I had done, service I had been in, and as I read the lit that we for campaigning, as I read it, everything on that lit was 100% true. Like I literally had done all those stuff, including save the gentleman's life. So as I read this literature, and I said, man, in the one gentleman I was talking to, he was like, oh my God, like this is golden. Like you can run for president with this. Like he was really shocked by it. And I'm looking at it saying, man, I really did do all that stuff. But I didn't do all that stuff to be a politician. I did all that stuff because, I love helping people. I tell you what, I had told people in the military, I asked them one question. I said, what is your purpose in life? Do you know your purpose in life? And I knew my purpose in life in the military. And my purpose was helping others. Now, that's a broad statement to make, but in the military, to be a leader, especially sergeant major, our whole goal, that's all we do is teach. Like I still teach today. If I'm sitting somewhere and someone says something, I might go into this whole tirade about educating them on something or helping them through something. Like that's what we do. So I had already known that was kind of my walk in life, and I was really walking in it. and I loved what I was doing. And then when I got out, I honestly kind of fell apart because I didn't know what that was anymore. And then I became a firefighter, and I was, doing a couple other things. Then I started my company. I was doing, traveling around and, doing some conference speeches and leadership stuff. And then the political thing came about. And when I saw that in my basement of my house, this team was putting all this stuff together, I was like, wow, okay, well, this is where I'm supposed to be. Like, really, I just want to go fishing, but you don't argue with God. You know what I mean? You just don't argue with God. You go do what He tells you to do.
Yeah, arguing with God is never a smart move. Here's something I want to ask you, and I know this may make you ponder a little bit. We are celebrating you today because it is Black History Month, and your story is a personal story in Black history. You have already talked about Dr. Martin Luther King Sr. You talked about W.E.B. Du Bois, and you mentioned several other people. But if I'm not mistaken, I believe you were the first African American supervisor elected in Prince William County. Is that correct? Okay. You were also the first African American command sergeant
Yes, sir.
major to command the National Guard. I know that to be a fact. So we know that there's a story of Black history with your name on it in the United States Army. We know that there's a story in Black history with your name on it in Prince William County. But if I'm asking Vic, the boy from Florida, how do you see yourself in the mosaic of Black history?
I'm sorry. Hey, Carl.
Yes. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Heck now. Yes, I can hear you. Yeah, I can.
Okay, I'm going to ask that question again. How do you see yourself in the mosaic of Black history? We know that Prince William County has a story with your name on it. The United States Army has a story with your name on it. But I'm talking to old Vic from Florida, and I'm asking you from those humble beginnings down in Florida to being where you are now in Prince William County, how do you see yourself, your own story in Black history?
Yeah. Okay, that. Because and being 100% very truthful, I don't. Um, I'm glad we were able to do this. 'Cause, I have come to a understanding that I have something to offer Black history, right? Um, but it's always been, you know, people get real, they get real different when you start sharing some things you've done and you're positive and you're doing all this stuff. And so I always just I just want to do the work and not necessarily talk about myself, because I don't want to ever create that animosity relationship where people start thinking, oh, you think he did all this and he did all that. And so, I had a general tell me once. He says, it's better for you to allow other people to tell your story and not you tell it yourself. And since he told me that, I kind of have always lived in that space where I don't necessarily do that. But I do truly believe that these are times where many of us, including myself, should tell our story. Like, we have to tell our story. I think there's a point where we out of place where we can get this ball over the hill. I don't think we ever got it over the hill, man. And if me telling my story can help us get this ball over the hill, to get to my Lily days, where Lily can start doing her thing, pushing this ball up the hill again, then I'll tell my story, because I would hope that it helps get us um, truly over the hill place. And so, if I had to say about me being a part of Black History, I will continue to do this, man. I don't even know three great futures, right? And to get into this place with great. I don't know what's next, or if there's something greater than this, or this is my moment to really help us all propel America, forward so we can get past all some of this stuff. But I'll continue doing it, and so I'll this moment, Carl. I'll own the fact that I have a great past, and I've had people try to tell me what I didn't do in the military. I've had people try to tell me, what I'm not doing it as a politician. But I'm gonna own the moment that I've done and give it to America, and I don't know what's next, but I'm gonna keep doing this until I can go fishing.
It's not time yet. It's not time. Here's another interaction with our audience. Denise Drake Wilder, she asks, with all you've done and accomplished, do you feel you follow your own heart truth?
No, I'm going to say no to that, but I'm going to say what I followed was a blessing for me. If I were to follow what I want to do, I'd probably be the worst break dancer in the world. I'd be the terrible rapper, probably lip syncing like Milli Vanilli. Um, no, but seriously, I want to do more things like entertainment wise. And then, people have got me into, like, I never thought about the military. I honestly never thought about politics. I have all about the fire department though. Since I was 10 years old, I always wanted to be a firefighter. So when that opportunity came, presented itself, thank you, Captain Kim Batson from Dale City Volunteer Fire Department, who sent me that flyer in the mail after I retired from the military, and then I joined. So, but that's one thing that I have always wanted to do since I was 10 years old. What happened in my life and career, the rest of that was just stuff that people have lined me up, and I've been great at. And I would say that to most, to all young people out there. Whatever it is that you believe you're going to do, I mean, continue down those roads. But when those opportunities present themselves and people are introducing you to different careers, different walks of life, don't turn away from those so fast. Unless they're illegal, then turn away from them.
I like that. You being a military veteran yourself, I know I can tell by the way that you talk that you do have great respect for our veterans. And you belong to some organizations that absolutely are known for being very pro-veteran. And all the many things that you do, how do you even find time to do that outside of your teachings on veterans transitioning back into the civilian world?
Yeah, yeah. Well, veterans will always be, there's two number ones, and veterans sit in there the number one category. So if anybody calls, and there's some veteran situation issue that can help with, really be there for it, but I will definitely put it in the hands of and here's what I mean by that. There are so many veterans out here that want to take care of veterans. Now, it's not just veterans. There's so many organizations of people who want to support veterans, people who never served or couldn't serve, but they're serving now, and they're still serving because they're serving our veterans. So to me, I always say I'm an engineer of relationships. I can build bridges, and so I will always send someone to someone that can help, such as the Ashleys of the world, the Vanessa Gaddis of the world. Colonel Gaddis, she's a huge sort of the Donnell Johns of the world, Tammy Lamberts of the world, So there's a lot of veterans out there that can't personally do something with it, which and everything else that's going on, I can't. So I can direct and send to as I can. I think that's important because as a sergeant major, you never stop taking care of soldiers. or service members, because it's more than just an Army soldier. There's Air Force, there's all of them. And so I just like, I'm always going to be there. Doesn't matter. I'm going to be there.
Amen. I want to ask this question. I want to ask, what is your why? And I'm going to quantify the question. For the things that I do, my why is hope I don't start crying, but it means so much to me. Number one, Jesus Christ pulled me out of a pit, and I owe him something. And I made him a promise that if I didn't do no jail time, he didn't have to worry about me no more. And I didn't do no jail time, so I owe him something. That's a why. I think about my children, 3 daughters, 1 son. I don't ever want them to be ashamed when their father's name is mentioned. For the grandchildren and great grandchildren that I'll never meet, but they'll see a picture, and my children or the grandchildren who did get to know me will be able to say, great granddaddy Carl, I want to build a legacy. That's my why. I'm nearing 50 years old, and I still love to hear my mother and father say, son, I'm proud of you. I really am proud of you. That's my why. What is Victor Angry's why?
Well, you're gonna, you may, I don't know how to take it. So my very first why, of course, is God, because He's directed me to be in all these positions. I will tell you this: there's this little boy named Scene at 10 years old, and Scene is me. My mother named me Sean Conley, Victor Sean Angry, because it's Scene. And I remember at 10 years old in Florida, um, little skinny black boy. Who's gonna miss this little black boy? It's 7 kids. I feel like I had no love in the house. My mother would choose between pipe and putting food on the table, right? So, I didn't like school. I didn't like a lot. So I had actually at 10 years old, wish that I was there, right? Every day, every day I get up, I have Scene with me, right? So that little 10-year old every day. There's one picture in the book, and that's the picture of me. It's a little rare about the age where I didn't want to on this earth anymore, or I thought, nobody would miss me. It's a waste of a life and good air for other people. But I'm so glad, right, that I didn't die, and it didn't happen, and I'm here today because that story of that journey and to be here, it's impressive, man. I was talking to some high school kids on a Zoom call, and I shared that story with them because, you know, we have young people killing themselves right now for various reasons. And if you just go back over my 42 years from when I was 10, there's been a lot of young people kill themselves for various reasons. But I will tell you, man, in the 42 years since I was 10 years old, life hasn't been easy. But let me tell you what, I would take that ride gladly again. Now, mind you, I lost my mother in 2001. Hardest thing I ever did. And I lost my oldest brother. Those are hard, man. They're very hard because they rip your life apart. Then when you can sit back and you just look back through after you come out the other side of that, even though many times you never come out the side of that, you deal with those and you carry those with you because I still talk. But look at me. This is 52 from 42 years ago where I was miserable, at 10. Who miserable at 10, right? So my why is that kid. My other why is as I got Peru and married my beautiful wife Michelle, and we have our 2 beautiful children, although they're not kids, they're grown folks too, but they're my why. I love the fact that they a dad who stayed in their lives for 30 years on me, for 20 years for Lexi. And again, we had some tough roads, but my why to even this conversation and the fact that I'm featured in Black history for some milestone accomplishment, that's for them. And so yeah, yeah.
I love it, and I thank you for sharing that. We're in Black History Month, and isn't it ironic? How can I say this? We're on this platform. A Black man is showcasing a Black man. You're a politician. You're a firefighter. You're a retired Army Sergeant Major. You're many, many things, and I'm sure there's a couple dozen things that we won't even get to today. But there is special emphasis, Supervisor Anger. You're a Black man, and you've been married to the same woman for a long time, and y'all have two children. I've never heard anything negative about you. We live in a climate where we don't hear stories like yours very often. Many times, the stories that we hear of men in our age group, even younger, are not the most positive. Um, how do you feel about where you are as a Black man? And what was your mindset along the journey? Were you thinking along the journey, I must be an example for those who will not?
um, Carl, you asked all these great questions. I would start by saying this. Uh, 31 years ago in April, I married Michelle Ray, and that's a true queen because she's no nonsense, right? So early days, she would tell you that she raised 3 kids, two of them, and then me. But I think I've grown out of that now, and so she's given me some wiggle room to be a mature adult, right? But even in all of that, it's not to say that her and I don't have our own. We haven't had bumpy roads, and it's not like there's this perfect life. So everybody should understand that. But coming out of all of that, on the other side, her and I have 31 solid years of marriage together, raising two excellent kids that I'm going to be 100% honest with. I served in the military. I traveled all over the world. I did all this stuff. That lady raised those two kids. Those two kids are as bright as they are because she was zero tolerance on accepting anything less than superior. And that's what my wife had a home daycare. She's got a batch of kids out there in society right now, young adults that are 100% able to handle life uh, because of her guidance that will back that story. So I'm sorry because I just went off on a tirade about my wife. Your other piece of that question was, if you could just
Along the way, were you conscious, even though there were bumps in the road? I'm not accusing you of being perfect. It's a journey. Were you conscious of
right,
trying to
right,
be a good example?
right. Mhm. Yes, 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 and that's yes. I was very conscious of trying to be a good example because it's so easy to fail as a Black man. It's so easy to fail. It's so easy to be associated with failure. It's so easy to be blamed. It's so easy to be accused. It's just easy. So you literally have to be. And I know many people will find that this is shocking to say, but you have to be 200% better than everybody else. When that day will change, I'm not so sure. I can say how I got here. I am in my journey to be mindful of all of that because, again, it's so easy. I had a young man tell me he had a job working at some department store in the mall, but he got fired because the manager said he had stolen a watch out of the display cabinet. Now, without saying this gentleman's name, I said, listen, man, could you imagine this man saying that Vic Angry stole a watch out of a display cabinet? It's not even in my persona DNA. Like, I created for myself. That doesn't that statement can't even be made. It just doesn't even make any sense. And then there'll be people who know me to say, nah, that doesn't sound like Vic Angry. So my question to him was, who are you and what presence have you made for yourself? Knowing you didn't steal this watch, but you let this man do of it because his perception or the rest of the people's perception is what of you? Because unfortunately, a lot into him getting fired because they accused him of stealing the watch. You know, but if those people knew him, they'd have been, no, that's not him. He don't like literally that things happen. Where you just have to create your presence of who you are in all these situations. I'm gonna tell you right now, Carl, I'm not even done with creating out who I am, even being in this position on this board, because there's two sides of this. Me, I'm me have to be proactive and not reactive. I don't like to just respond and just keep moving, unless you're a fireman now, because that's what we do. We respond to stuff. We're very reactive. But for what's happening in politics, there's so much reactiveness, and it should be better planned. So I live in this proactive world, but I don't want to force that on people. So I find myself now having one-on-ones with folks and county staff just to let them know I'm aggressive, but I'm not a bad person. I'm not an evil person to, wish bad things or yell at people or doing this stuff. But I do have high standards of what we should be doing. And so I have to create that presence even in this role now, dealing with other folks, because what happens is, Carl, the number one thing is that rumor mill. If the rumor mill gets hold of you and it's pushed out there in the negative rumors, then you got work to do to clean that up. So I have to get out here ahead of that now to just make sure that folks understand. I have a lot of high standards, a lot of high moral ethics, values, and expectations, but it doesn't mean I'm a bad person or unapproachable, or in other words, don't let my last name fool you. I'm not an angry person.
Right. We have a question. I love this interaction, audience. You're awesome. Chris Frederick, Supervisor Angry, with the climate we're living in right now, what advice would you give to the young men of color and making the right decisions when it is so easy to do the wrong thing?
Very, very, I think for me, this is the answer. And if you don't have any of these, then you have to, I highly suggest you go and get them. You need some mentors. You need people that you will make an oath to yourself that you will never fail. And so when you find yourself in situations where you're going to make a decision and you think it's just you that's involved in that decision, remember, if you have these mentors and you have these people in your life that would be upset at the decision you just made, you need to carry them forward into every decision that you make. It's no different than we use this analogy when you write an email. Ask yourself, or if you make a statement, ask yourself, would your grandmother or your mother, like what you said here, right? So you got to bring those people into your circle. I call it my 18 because my last name is Angry, so I have the A's for Angry. But you got to get you an 18, man, and you have to own that 18 and be supportive of that 18, because if they're gonna support you, then you have to respect them, do those things those expectations that they can see in you going forward. It's no different than I see more in you than you see in yourself.
Wow, I like that. I really like that. We have done so much talking about your past and many things about your present, but I'm sure I'm not the only one who is wondering about Supervisor Angry's future. Will there be a time where we will see a delegate angry, state senator angry, governor angry, U.S. senator angry, U.S. representative angry, maybe even judge angry.
I mean, just honestly, what? How come you couldn't say it like maybe I could appear on a Drake album, or be like a, back. No, no. In all seriousness, in all seriousness, again, I have no future, but I do dream, and so dreams are important. So I do dream of success and doing this stuff. But for what I'm doing right now, it's all about. I have plans in this district to really do some things for the people, for our commute, for our travel, for our infrastructure, for our traffic situations. Like, and you can't do this overnight. So I need 2 more terms here, folks. That's 8 years. So we can get some things done. And then after that, if y'all want to keep me on board, you can still keep me on board. Now stay. I don't make plans to go people's decision. So, and people in God, they figure that out. And so I'm just in this as the servant to do the work, you know. And so that's where I am. But I have dreams, and I think that's so important for everyone to have. Continue to dream, because dreams are the things that align your life. And specifically, I'm gonna look at dreaming from after 10 to being where I am now. It may not have played out the way I thought it would, but it definitely has always been on the rise. It's always something more positive and positive and better and better. And so I can honestly tell you all, I'm very proud of my life and, and the things I've accomplished in it.
Well, we are too. I can tell you, I'm blown away every time I read something new about you. I'm not surprised though. I'm not surprised. Um, I do believe that you are a real personal story in Black history. Prince William County, and especially the NABSCO district, have something to be very proud of in your service and representation. And I'm not just giving you flowery words. I do absolutely believe what I'm saying. I do know one of the young men that you mentor, and he's never said anything but very positive things about you. Also, his mother. When I first started to think about interviewing you, I was talking about it. And after my conversation with her, I knew that I had to interview. So before I even really knew anything about you, it was the word of somebody else. And it reminded me of something that we were taught by our parents. There's something in a name. My dad would tell me and my brother, boy, don't you mess my name up. And I've always taught my kids this, but especially my son. I said, life will get you into situations where your money can't get you out of. It will be the value of your name. Somebody's going to have to know your name and what that represents. And that's going to be the only thing that can get you out of that. And my son is only 24, but he's already experienced that. And so he understands there's something in a name. And so when we see, A is for angry, when we see the tag Honorable Victor S. Angry, I can say there's something in the name, sir. And I really do appreciate you. And the audience does too. Uh, Monica says this honorable interview has been so inspiring and uplifting. Thank you, Supervisor Angry. And let me tell you, Monica lives in Syracuse, New York. Okay. And Valerie says, for sure, thank you. We're going to wrap here in just a few moments, Supervisor Angry, but I want to give you the microphone for a few minutes. There may be something that we did not cover that you want to cover, that you want the audience to know, and I want to make sure I give you an opportunity to do that, sir.
All right. Well, thank you, Carl, and thank you everybody for those comments. I do want to say we talked a lot about mentors and the safety net of not letting folks down that believe in you, right? And so I'm gonna go through. I'm not gonna hit them all, but I'm gonna talk about my safety and how this all started. First, it's definitely my family, all my siblings and my mother and my father, even my father. And that's another story, but we're not gonna get into that today. This Miss Brenda Patterson, right? Um, when she catapulted me into the military, one of the very first mentors that I picked up was this gentleman. He was my commander, Major M.O.F. Mize. Now, Major Mize was in it for a short time because when my cousin passed away, this man, who I had only been in this company for a week, just stopped me in the hall, saw the look in my eyes and on my face that I was just broke down from the fact that my cousin passed away, and put me on a plane home and said, "You will be no good as command until you go home and take care of your cousin and the family issue there." Learned a lot from that. A simple experience from him, and that was life changing for me that he allowed that. Then there's John Tilley. He was the first. John Tilley wrapped me up real quick because I had this little red Nissan, big old letters on the back called "Movement Young Boy," just knucklehead E5, and he asked me one question. He says, "You're an E5. You're a sergeant E5. That's where leader begins. Are you going to be a leader? Or are you going to be this little knucklehead running around with Nancy with a booming Nissan on your car making all this noise?" Because you can't do them both. And that was a very true statement, because there's an expectation that comes with this that changes this wildness, that because I want to be a professional in the daytime and a knucklehead at night. It doesn't work like that. Okay, this is everything or nothing is what it is. So he taught me that, and I made a decision going forward with that. There's Miriam Wallace. There's the entire castle staff. But then let's get when I grew up, when I started making real rank and became a sergeant major. To the story we've been talking a lot about with some of the challenges of being a black man. Well, when I became sergeant major, I was very upset at the position where I wanted to go versus the position where, the leadership. And they sent all of my white sergeant majors into all these leadership, command position, and this and that. And they sent me to the Office of Equal Opportunity and Civil Rights. And I said, well, why is the black guy got to go to EO and you send all the white guys out to fill these great positions and all this stuff? Well, little did I know that ain't had nothing to do with that leadership. That was all God. I wouldn't be there long, because I'm gonna get back out in the field, because they're not gonna send me to this dead end job. And Mr. Page pretty much put me in my place professionally, because he's a black man, African American. Um, uh, he was a major. I think he retired major, and great man. And he was the director of equal opportunity and civil rights, and he schooled me on a lot of things that I didn't know, and to the point that catapulted me into everything that I did after that, which I would have never known. Whole staff in that office is so great that we're still in today. Those are all my friends right now. I'm here. The whole team is out here watching this, and we really are a good mix. Now, here's the deal: all the folks I just mentioned, and even coming into this political realm, I have mentors out here that are guiding me through this. They're all a part of my safety net, right? So as I go forward and do anything and think about things, I have this bench of leaders, of mentors that literally, you may have heard this term before, standing on the shoulders of giants. I'm at the position I am because they have all lifted me up to be here. So I can, when your parents tell you never forget where you came from, that's true in so many aspects of the word. Like, you have to remember how you get where you are. And it's never been about you or the individual. It's always been about everybody else. And you can never forget that. And you have to carry that forward. And, my end say, hopefully one day I can go fishing. But y'all can come fishing with me too. We can all get on my pontoon boat because I want one. And so, but that day, hopefully I'll get that day when. And so I kind of want to leave with that, just to really kind of leave you with, if there was a kind of theme that went with that whole statement, it's that this is, and that's, You can never make it about yourself. And I always told myself, and my wife will tell you this, if I ever had the opportunity to do this again, because when I was a command sergeant major of the entire, you really get ahead of yourself. You can get a big head on that. I don't know if I did or not, but as I came out of that position, I realized some things, and then thought, man, if I had the chance to do that again, I would do it differently. And God has given me this opportunity to do it again. And so it's very different this time. I have removed myself completely from this mix, and I just want to do the job and work with the people. And I will always make my family proud, my mentors proud, all those folks that support me proud. And so I have to that walk very delicately. And it's still not an easy, but I'm willing to put work to do that. And I will just leave folks with that as far as your experiences coming up through life. And never sell yourself short, man. Never sell yourself short. You'd be amazed. There's always something that you've done that you're helping them, and you don't even know you're helping them.
Amen to that. Well, listen, we thank you. And Ashley, I'll put it back up. Ashley says, thank you, Supervisor Angry, for the impact you've made in my life, my husband's life, my daughter's lives, all the lives you've touched, and all the future lives that you will touch on your journey. Thank you, Carl, for hosting this event. Ashley, thank you. I really do thank you for being a part of the audience. Thank you for all you did to promote this event. And I'm sure you're probably sharing or hosting a watch party too. I really do appreciate my audience. I really, really do. This has been an amazing time with Supervisor Angry. Every time I talk to him, I feel like I get to know him a little bit better. And like him, I can't wait until we are out of the woods with this COVID thing so we can start to fellowship in person. I don't know if we're ever going to go back to shaking hands, but I really do want to fellowship in person. Our audience, I do hope that you know what a treat this has been for you. And I'm hoping that somewhere for the people who did not catch this live, that will go back and catch it on the replay. I do hope that you'll be able to pull some of these golden nuggets out that Supervisor Angry poured out. And he poured out not just to fill your cup, but your cup ought to be running over, right? So we really do appreciate his time, and we appreciate his service. For those of you who are first-time viewers to Carl's Conversations, I want to let you know I have some very exciting things coming up. Tomorrow is going to be the first episode of the Man Cave Ministry on Carl's Conversations. I'll be interviewing public servant and author Josh King. He's going to be talking about his book, How to Run. He has run for public office, and he is the husband of Delegate Candy King, who is serving portions of Prince William County and Stafford County down in Richmond right now as a delegate. He'll be our guest tomorrow. We're going to continue with the things that we're trying to do on Carl's Conversations. And I invite you to be a part of the audience. So thank you so much for being a part of this great, great tribute to Black history. Supervisor Angry, he is Black history, sir. You are absolutely Black history. And we do thank you so much for your time and your openness this evening. All right, everybody. Until next time, I'm going to say, may God bless you and may heaven smile upon you. We'll see you tomorrow evening at 7 o'clock. Bye-bye.